The sky isn't just falling, Nicholas Gibbs. The sky has fallen. It is completely down. The market has crashed. We're crushed. It's horrible, and it's all Elon's fault. It's Elon's fault that Nvidia was down today 3%. It's Elon's fault that Bitcoin was down 8% or 9%. It's just Elon's fault. What do you think?
Sounds like you don't need me here. Sounds like you got it all figured out.
So, are you buying? Are you buying leaps right now?
I'm not buying anything at the moment. Um, I am doing a lot of trading around this volatility. A lot. Uh, these are the days that are great for people like me when it comes to trading. Ironically, um, but no, I'm not doing any buying right now. I mean, I've got a lot on Tesla. I've got several leaps on right now. So yeah, I'm comfortable. I did buy another few hundred shares. I guess a total of like 1,000 shares over the last like 3 days.
Oh,
So
okay.
I guess technically that's buying.
Yeah, that would be
Uh,
called buying. Yeah.
yeah, uh, but yeah, other than that, no, not doing anything.
All right.
Just hanging out, watching the
So,
show, and trading.
so the obvious first question that everybody wants to know is, are we bottoming at 300? Are we going to go to 270? Or are we going to be just hanging out in the 300s for a while? What do you think?
Um, he, I don't know.
Oh, there
It,
you go. That's
right? Is that what your viewers want to hear? I don't know. Um, let me tell you. And sorry, I'm under the weather, so sorry if I sound
Oh,
weird.
okay. All right.
Um, he, let me zoom out, and then maybe I can come to a opinion as I
Yeah.
zoom back in.
Okay.
I think we've seen a lot of fear in the market that we're going to be in a recession and that things are going to go awful. In fact, my father-in-law was in town, um, and I've kind of talked to him a little bit about things that I'm seeing that I think is going to happen. I think unemployment is going to go up. I think we're going to see layoffs. I think you're going to see housing prices come down because you're going to see a lot of inventory. I think you're going to see a lot of things happen that aren't great, but it seems like everybody thinks that we're going to have a recession, which tells me we're not going to have a recession. Because did 2022 to today teach us anything? That every genius out there was talking about we're gonna have a recession now, we're gonna have a recession now, we're gonna have a recession now. Um, and we never I mean, my take that I personally think that we did have one in 2022,
Right.
no matter what other people say. But despite that, we've been in the bull market, and bull markets tend to last for at least five, like 5.7 years. So I don't think the general public tends to predict when we're in a recession. I think when you see market sell-offs like we saw today and yesterday and the day before that and the day before that, it gets people get scared. But it's not until you get that kind of like peak fear that you start to see things rebound. And when I see people like Galley selling 10% of his shares, um, everyone's got to do what's right for them. Everyone's got their own financial situations, and you got to take care of your own stuff. So, if he's doing something to, keep his books tight and make sure everything's good, then fair enough. But I don't think that this is anything other than noise. I don't think this is anything other than normal end of February into the first weeks of March trading activity. I think this is pretty par for the course, to be honest. We just ripped from Tesla was what at like 250, and we ripped all the way up to 480. It's like to think you could go that high that quickly and not have a drastic pullback is nonsensical. And to think that it's just Tesla is also nonsensical. We saw Palantir go from 60 to 125, I think. Yeah, 125 to now back down to 87.
Yeah,
Weird, same thing, right?
yeah,
We've seen Bitcoin go from 60,000 up to 109,000,
yeah.
back down to 86,000 now.
Right.
We've seen, I mean, I could go on and on, right? So I think this is just the market doing what it's doing. And I think really whether or not this continues or not is in the hands of NVIDIA tomorrow evening. So, yeah, I don't think this is a Tesla thing. I don't think this is a recession thing. I think this is a people are just de-risking a little bit, see what happens with the world order, see what happens with Trump, see what happens with Elon, see what happens with China, these wars. But I don't know. I think people are just taking some chips off the table, and from a fund manager perspective, it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
so you come in with a new administration who immediately hits with shock and awe. I said, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, maybe you agreed with me. I can't remember that we would have chaos. I think we had chaos. Chaos creates people are uncertain. Uncertainty is something the stock market doesn't like. But the reality is, the way I added it up today, the S&P is down around 2% from its all-time high. The what do you call it? NASDAQ is down less than 5% from its all-time high. So we're not exactly looking at even a correction yet, much less a bear. It's not even in correction territory. It's kind of just a little pullback, a little trim, basically. Now Tesla, as you just pointed out, it is actually up 43% from where it was 6 months ago. So it's actually
yeah,
most people, if they could buy something and 6 months later have it be up 43%, they'd be kicking up their heels and asking for, the best champagne in the house. So, yeah, to your point, I think we got way out over our skis in one direction. We've come back down to something like normal. And so then the next question becomes, what kind of catalyst is it going to take? Let me talk about a catalyst that nobody paid attention to today, the China FSD.
I wouldn't say nobody.
Well, okay, it's been talked about on X, but I mean, in terms of the market, they didn't care that we now have the largest car market in the world has exactly the same FSD version that we're using here in the United States, even though they're not calling it FSD because of whatever regulations, and that it was all done from simulation. I mean, that's pretty dang impressive.
Yeah, I don't know how much I believe that.
Oh, you think they cheated?
I think they probably bent some rules. I mean, like when you're sitting there saying, "Yeah, we use uh public videos, whatever." Okay, who posted those public videos?
Yeah,
Were
okay.
they potentially people that Tesla hired to go drive in certain areas to find certain
Oh, I
things? I
see.
don't know. I
Oh,
don't know. Just like the phrasing of it just felt so. We found a workaround your rules, and it's what we use. It's what it felt like to me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me wanting to have a little conspiracy theory here, but I think Tesla and Elon are definitely ones for unique workarounds. And
right, right. Mhm.
you know, if I hire a third party to potentially, hey, I'm going to hire you to just upload videos of you driving around.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
be really interested if you happen to do these roads, but upload what you want. Go on. Like, and if you happen to upload your dash cam video from your Tesla to whatever your YouTube is, who am I to say no? I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like there might have been something like that,
Well,
but
in any case, the reality is we end up with the product that being available now in China, the Model Y rolling out in China in what was a fairly competitive market, but apparently, from everything we've heard, the latest number I've heard is 200,000 reservations. And that was when they didn't know they could get the full self-driving. So it would seem like this would mean that China is not going to be an issue for 2025, or at least the first half of 2025. We should be able to count on selling as many Ys as we can make.
Yeah, that's you know, it's funny how it's just funny how life works. It was, and by the way, all this whole sell off is, we've seen this. I'm gonna tie this back, Randy. I promise. I know
How
I'm
many
scatterbrained
times?
here.
How many
This
times?
whole sell off is very reminiscent of when we had the CPI scare, when we had the DeepSeek scare, right? Now, mind you, this is a little longer and a little more drastic,
How about
but
the Twitter scare?
yeah, well, that was a while ago though. But I'm talking about just this year alone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think this is a fundamental scare. But what I was going to say is, right when you think someone is down and out, much like this market, it seemed like, oh, here's Tesla, they're down and out. All of a sudden, they talk about on the quarterly call about the issues there. And none of us would have predicted that in February they'd be launching 13.2.6 in China. None of us would have predicted that. But then it just goes back to the irony of it all. The U.S. tried to put sanctions on China uh, to not essentially get NVIDIA chips. Well, China found their own workarounds, which is essentially funnel everything through Singapore, which is completely legal. And then from Singapore, those entities can do whatever they want with their GPUs.
Right.
And anyways, essentially constraints force
Innovation,
it,
if you will.
but it's more than that. It's especially with us as humans. It's like the more you constrain back someone to a corner,
Yeah.
the more you force the ingenuity, and those constraints are what make people stronger and tougher, right? Whether it's like Bane, Batman, whether it's like DeepSeek in this situation, or in this case Tesla with FSD in China, or even Tesla just in general against the odds across everywhere, right? Across every domain. Oh, EVs versus ICE, or FSD regulations in Europe or China. I mean, you just see over and over again that the one who deals with the constraints is the one that comes out successful. Michael Jordan used to do it to himself, right? Tom Brady used to do it, right? They used to come up with their own constraints. Oh, we're old. Oh, we're too old to win Super Bowl. And look what happens. You have to make your own constraints sometimes. But it's funny to see that these are the ones that continue to find a way, find an answer.
So the most interesting part of the political, anxiety out there to me is not the United States or China. I'm not worried about it at all in the United States or China. I figure there's just as many Republicans that are going to get awakened to Musk and the potential of doing business with Trump, with Tesla for the first time, as there are Democrats that are going to potentially leave who were Tesla fans. But what about Europe? I've been to Europe lots of times. I have friends in Europe. I've done business in Europe. But I wonder what you're thinking in terms of, as somebody who was born in Europe and lived there till you were what, 3 months old? No, I forget now. You've told me, but I forget how old. But what do you think? Do you think there will be a significant overhang on the politics going forward with regard to Tesla products?
Um, I do, uh, but not just in Europe. I think in the States as well. I do think there'll be an impact. Um, Not necessarily because people have an animosity towards Elon or Tesla or anything like that, but people don't want their vehicle that they just bought vandalized.
Oh, okay.
They don't necessarily want something that's like other people are going to think, oh, you're trying to like fly a certain type of flag or whatever. Um, I do think there's a lot of that, but to be honest, I I don't know. I feel like most people, maybe I'm wrong, because honestly, all I hear are the loud voices that are complaining about everything Doge is doing. But I have to believe that the majority of people are happy about what's happening. I have to believe that, because if not, that means that all of a sudden everyone thinks that the government is always doing everything right, and that we should be getting taxed all the money, and that everything's efficient. It's like I can't make the intellectual connection between, yeah, we don't think that what they're doing is right, but we don't like or we think everything they're doing is wrong, but we don't like the way we're going about ending the wrong thing.
Hmm.
And it's like, don't like like I get that to an extent,
Hmm. Hmm.
but at the same time, if something is so, for lack of a better word, cancerous in a system, then sometimes chemo is the only answer, and you have to nuke the whole thing, because if not, that's where we're at. But maybe they don't realize that's where we're at. Like,
Yeah.
I understand, for an example, like if somebody stole something, maybe chopping their hand off isn't exactly the best move forward, and I think that's what they think the situation is. Whereas I think a lot of other people see it as like, no, this has become a cancer throughout everything. And honestly, we got to sometimes cut the leg off to save the body.
A lot of people have this incorrect perception of Elon Musk that he's uh, not very deep intellectually, that he hasn't studied a lot of history and philosophy, but he has. I put him in the room with anybody on history of war, history of civilizations, on philosophy. He's been in some good rooms, like with Lex Friedman many times, and you can hear him talking about his understanding of these things. Some people think that Donald Trump is not much of a reader, which I think is probably true, but they falsely believe that therefore he's not a big student of history or not a big student of philosophy and of how civilization works. I think both of them understand that as an essay that I read this morning in the early morning program, the After the Bell program. This essay was pointing out that the effort to cut the bureaucracy has been tried over and over and over again. Reagan was almost successful with the Grace Commission. They got some stuff done, but they really didn't get all that they wanted to get done. We had the Clinton Gingrich situation where they got some stuff done, but probably would have been better if they gotten some more done. You had Obama give it a shot. Nobody has been able to really, really, really solve it. And I think both Trump and Musk knew the only way you're going to solve it is, like you just said, you got to come in, with the scalpels flying, and you're gonna make some mess, on the way in, and you're gonna make some mistakes. You have to correct those mistakes, but it's not going to happen unless you come in and really go after the cancer fast.
Can I add something?
Sure,
Um, it's
absolutely.
not just, it's not, here's the thing that I don't think people understand. If it's not Elon, this will not happen.
Yeah,
It has to be Elon. It Mark Cuban couldn't do it. Chamath couldn't do it. David Sachs couldn't do it. Trump couldn't do it. I don't care who you put up there. They couldn't do it. And the reason I say that is because we have this person who has been able to grow companies to huge sizes while keeping such a tight leash on outgoing expenditures
right,
that we've never seen before.
right.
We've seen Bill Gates couldn't do it. We've seen Microsoft get bloated. We've seen HP get bloated, Oracle, Costco, Walmart, you name the company. We've seen all of them have their own bureaucracy get bloated and all that. Musk companies, you've seen them fight that. And he's uniquely the only person that could come in and do it. Just look at what he did with Twitter, for
Right,
example.
right.
And it's not like Twitter was an example of going into something that existed versus the other ones. But the point is, there's not another person you can name that went in and did what he's done, other than maybe a what's it called? Bill Ackman. He's a help me out. A oh my goodness, a somebody who goes in and
Oh, some other people that have gone in with turnarounds.
viciously takes over a company.
Yeah, but like a lot of times when they viciously go in and take them over, they're really just getting them for the property or
Yeah,
some of the
but that's what I'm
assets.
saying.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the closest thing.
yeah.
Wow, why am I blanking here? Oh, because I'm sick. But that's the only other person that I could think of that could go in there. Someone like that. But so he's uniquely qualified for this. There's no one else. So this is like literally the once in a lifetime opportunity. I mean, hell, how often do we have an Elon out there, right? Once in a century type situation or
I
lifetime. Yeah.
wonder.
So it's not just that anyone could do this. It's not that it's the process. I don't care what process you have, whatever you think, it's not going to work because you need to have the right person who knows how to carry things out and who has the intestinal fortitude to carry things out. There's not a
Yeah,
lot of people like that, Randy. There's not a
yeah,
lot of people out there. They're willing to put everything on the line, their reputation, their name, their businesses, everything. There's very few people like that out there.
yeah. So what? So did you have any problem with asking people to put down the five things they accomplished last week? I'm sorry to ask you that question while you were drinking. I know that.
That one was weird. Is that it's like I wish like if I could like give any as a former Democrat if I could give any counseling to them, it would be stop making every little thing a house is burning down situation. Like, just stop it. Like, you're not going to get any traction. Like, eventually, people get tired of complaining, and everything's always wrong, right? I mean, like, literally, like people are still exhausted from the election of all of that, and now we're a month in, barely a month in, not even a month in. Today's okay, slightly over a month in to Trump, and we've had nonstop, uh, you know, fire or houses burning down after houses burning down. It's like, guys, you have to give it a rest. You have to give it a rest. Like you need to have a levity in your arguments in your disposition. And you know what I'm waiting for? I think I said this to you last week. I'm waiting for the Newt Gingrich of the Democrats to step up
Yeah, yeah,
and say, you know what? It's time. And I'll tell you what, whoever does that will be a great Democratic candidate.
yeah. Right. Yeah, because they really don't have any bench at all right now. So there would be an opportunity, for somebody to take a role that would be a leadership role, and say, look, I may not agree with the way they're doing it. I might think that it could be done a little softer, a little smoother, with a little more, notice or whatever. Maybe I think it's all wrong, but I do think that we do want to cut government, and so I want to go in there and I want to sit down with the president because the president believes in sitting down, nose to nose, eyeball to eyeball. Okay, let's negotiate because I think it could be. I think we could do it, but let's do it a little different.
I, I let me push back. I don't. What I'm talking about is not someone who wants to negotiate. What I'm saying is, look, Trump, you're going to do this regardless. We Democrats, we don't want the votes,
Mhm.
but you know what? If I'm truly someone who actually cares about everything that I'm complaining about, hey, I want to have a seat at the table on the DOGE team to at least be able to communicate to the other half of the country what's going on and maybe tell you guys if you're kind of like stepping out of bounds, like, hey, like this isn't cool. You can't just do this. And me, if I was a Democrat, I would want that. I'd want someone in there knowing what's actually going on. It's no different than when we count ballots. You have a Republican and a Democrat there,
Right.
but the Democrats, instead of thinking that way, I mean, hey, the rest of you can keep saying the house is burning down, but at least put two or three people up there. Be like, hey, like, can we be part of your Doge team? Like, yes, we want to cut. Well, how about you guys tackle what you're tackling? We'll tackle the Pentagon, and we'll divide and conquer that way. And it's hey, that like I mean, that could be pretty amicable. But I don't know. I feel like there's room to come in and like there's such an opportunity there. The Democrats are missing. Like someone could just step up and be like, you know what, enough's enough.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like let's unify.
So were you as shocked as I was when Macron, I'm always
Macron,
blanking his-
Macron.
Macron, when Macron said Musk, I mean, Trump is a game changer. I'm like, wait a minute. Just a day or two ago, everybody in Europe is calling him Nazi, and now you're telling me he's a game changer and we want to work with him. Was that as a big a shock to you?
No, not really. I I think I think there's like levels to this. And the bottom tier level are all the people who are screaming that the house is on fire and complaining on social media and all that, and all these news channels. Like they're the bottom echelon. All they're trying to do is create hysteria. But the people who are actually in positions of power, they understand. All right, you won. I got to work with you. Let's get stuff done. They're not gonna just sit there and complain. They want to get stuff done. That's the problem with Congress is that they don't ever get anything done. So all
Right,
they do is complain and sit outside buildings like, "Oh, why won't you let us in? Oh, why won't you let us in?" And because all they're doing is trying to make news and create drama.
right,
But these leaders of these countries are actually trying to get things done, even if they don't always like the other person. Like, all right, well, you're the person. I got to deal with you if I want to get something done. And that's the problem with Congress is that you don't have the term limits. So
yeah, right,
there's no forcing mechanism for them to try to get things done because you know what?
right.
We'll do it next decade. Like it's insane. But so no, it doesn't surprise me from a leader like that. What does surprise me more than anything is the house is on fire when it comes to them saying that all of a sudden Trump is saying that Russia's not the aggressor on invading Ukraine and all this, and it's like you're literally not seeing the nuance there. Like this is something like David Sack's been talking about for since 2022, since the invasion. You know that the Biden administration's attempt to put Ukraine into NATO would naturally provoke
Right,
Russia.
right.
Flip the script. If Russia, China, Iran, North Korea have an alliance, and they're trying to get Mexico or Canada into their alliance,
Right, yes,
what what would we be saying? I don't think
right,
so.
right. And you can say that without saying that Putin's a good guy.
Yes, you can
You
hold
can
both
just
thoughts.
yeah, you can have both thoughts at once. And that's where I've been like trying to tread this middle ground. I did a long post on it, I think on Monday. It's like I think Putin's a criminal. I think he's a complete, animal.
He's a
I don't
thug,
have
yeah.
I don't have any respect for him. I think that he's got a bunch of people around him that are, the worst kind of additional thugs, that even if he was kicked out, the next guy might be just like him. I think that the Russian people probably are happy that the trains are running on time. I don't know exactly what it is, why they keep having good polling numbers, except maybe they're afraid their car will blow up if they don't say that they like Putin. But so I have nothing good to say about Putin. But I also think that if you're going to go in and negotiate, you can't be saying you nasty aggressor. It's not
Yeah.
going to go over with Putin. You're going to have to say, I get your point of view. I understand where you're coming from. I would not have done what you did, but I'm not going to call you an aggressor when you felt you were being aggressed upon, by
Yeah.
this UN situation. So yes, I think that's
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day too, uh, maybe 3 days ago. And they were talking about this and I don't bring these things up. I just try to show people the lens that they may not understand or not be looking through. And they're saying like, yeah, like I don't think it's right for Ukraine to have to give up any of their land, whatever, for Russia. Like I don't think Trump should be uh, negotiating for that. It seems like Trump's kind of more on Russia's side, and it's like I think you're missing the point. You're talking about says to this individual, you're thinking of it's not fair for Ukraine. I hear that. And no, it's not. And you're making that, you're making the connection that that means that Trump is more so trying to just do what Russia wants. But you're not seeing the lens from what Trump's looking through at. He just wants people to stop dying. He wants the dying to end. Doesn't like at the end of the day, he's looking at it from a humanity, from an Earth, a human perspective, not a country, a region. Like in the big scheme of things, who cares if Russia owns a little more land that, yeah, they didn't deserve, but you know what? They got it because it's going to save how many more lives and how many future kids if it could just stop, if we could end it today.
And I want to add to what you're saying. And this is something maybe you and I talked about last week. I know Larry and I started talking about it like 3 weeks ago. Trump also, the lens that Trump is looking through is he wants a worldwide reset. He doesn't, he's looking at 100-year peace. Yeah, he's not even looking at ending the two wars that are going. He's saying if we could reset all the pieces around the world and all agree that we're going to be equals. It's not going to be the United States and China or the big whatever. And, it's going to be everybody's on an equal playing field. We have to play fair, if you want, or we have to act in a just way in our dealings with one another. And, the first thing we have to do is get the peace. And then after that, let's see if we can't find a way to construct something that looks like a future of no real conflagration.
Yeah, and honestly, the best way to get to that after you have peace is to have mutual trade.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Because then it's mutually assured destruction.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what keeps the peace.
So on a completely different subject, founder and CEO Peter Rawlinson has stepped aside as CEO of that company that I thought was, well, I still don't think they have a chance of succeeding without a lot more Arab money. But what did you think about the big switcheroo and their expectations of doubling the number of cars they sell next year?
It's interesting the things that get headlines and things that don't get headlines. Nobody talked about, to your point earlier, China FSD. Yet
Yes.
we've had Lucid. Apparently, all the headlines have been they're going to be the Tesla killer for all this time, and they've got the genius from Tesla and Peter Rawlinson, whatever his name is.
Yep, Rawlinson. Yep.
And now here he is stepping aside, being forced aside, whatever it is. I mean, it just goes to show you that it's not easy. What's been done is very difficult. And meanwhile, while everyone else is still trying to figure out the electric vehicle part of it, here's Tesla in the last 1 month rolling out FSD in Puerto Rico, Mexico, now China. I mean, we're in February.
Right. Right.
So I don't know. I mean, best of luck to Lucid's COO and the rest of the team there. I know Corey from Monroe is over there working.
That's right.
So best of luck to all of them. But I don't know. I'm still of the opinion that this is going to become a world where we have very few automakers.
Right.
I think
right. So on that subject, because I've never had that much respect for the whole Lucid thing. I mean, I guess they're making an okay car, but Rivian, almost everybody says they're making a good car. I said the other day on X, and I'm going to stand by it, but I'm curious what you think. I'm a sales and marketing guy, right? I'm a product guy, and I'm sitting here going, how come they can't sell more cars? I mean, everybody complains about Elon not doing advertising. Everybody, what's the marketing? They need more marketing. I'm like, no, he's a marketing genius. The number one way that you want to sell something, if possible, is by word of mouth. And that has worked really, really well. But what is going on with Rivian that they can't get more cars? They're only selling what? I mean, it's hardly any cars at all.
I mean, it's because with a truck like that, there's only such a big market for it. And I mean, honestly, I'll say I think you'll see the same thing with the Cybertruck eventually, and you'll see the same thing with the Model Y and Model 3. Is that there are, there's no max capacity in an economy like we have, where we still have high rates, despite what everybody says. I mean, maybe people feel it now, because up until now, the economy has been struggling. The real world has been struggling, besides assets. And
Right,
I think the stock
right,
market now, everyone's like, "Oh no, it's just so rough out
yeah,
there."
right,
It's like,
right.
well, welcome to what the rest of the world has been dealing with.
Yes.
But yeah, rates are still high. It's a niche market. Like, I think the only way a segment like that grows, Randy, is if rates are low, economy's booming, people feel flush with cash. That's the only way. Um, but what's even more shocking to me is that they still haven't gotten the profitability. Um, that's the scary part. Like, how long are they going to last? But I
I,
think it's a niche vehicle. I think all of these segments have a certain. That was one of the geniuses of Tesla, was that they didn't go into all these variants,
mhm.
and they went with mass volume for a very select few segments, right, and models. Had they not done that, they probably wouldn't have gotten the profitability.
Yeah, well, speaking of getting the interest rates down so that they can sell more trucks, let's take a look at what happened today with the markets. As everybody's undoubtedly aware, and I'll just go quickly, the Dow ended up slightly up 0.37%. NASDAQ ended up down 1.35. It had been down more than that, I think about 1.6 or something like that at the worst. S&P ended up down 0.47, and Tesla ended up 8.39 down for the day at 302.80. And a lot of the technical analysts were saying that the 300 or the 298 was kind of the breaking point, that it shouldn't go under some kind of 50-day moving average or something. So this
200-day moving average.
200. Okay, that one. So, so then we've got the Magnificent Seven not doing that well either. Apple had been up, but ended up a little bit down. As I mentioned, Meta was down 1.59. Microsoft was 1.51 down. Nvidia was down 2.8%. So it was kind of a rough day all around, except for the members of the Dow didn't do terrible today. They did okay. Thoughts about anything more about the equities today, the equity action?
Yeah, I mean, if you give me a second here, I'll kind of run down through some of these. So, Nvidia, that's the one you got to keep your eye on. All right, they report earnings tomorrow after the bell. If they meet estimates, give good guidance on Blackwell, this market is going to recover. Mark my words.
Okay,
Um, if they disappoint at all, watch out below.
watch out.
I'm not even joking. Right now, it's Nvidia. It used to be Apple that held market up. Right now, it's Nvidia.
Okay,
Um, then you also have, I mean, Rainey mentioned a bunch of companies. Looking at Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and Coinbase.
yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah,
MicroStrategy is one that I feel like there could be. I felt like this for a while. That's a house of cards where you have to see Bitcoin continuing to go up in order for it to go up.
hmm,
And people also need to obviously hold on to their shares. But here we see MicroStrategy essentially collapsing.
right.
Now, mind
Down
you, I say that
50%, 55?
from 548 down to what's that now? 254.
Yeah,
So yeah, but now mind you, if you look at a MicroStrategy chart, and if you look at our fair stock Tesla chart, they look identical. So, let's be intellectually honest here.
Exactly.
Um, but I think there's a bigger issue with Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and maybe not Bitcoin, but MicroStrategy for sure. So it's an interesting one to take a look at, especially since MicroStrategy and Tesla have such similar like 6-month charts right now. I mean,
Right.
they're
Right.
almost identical. So
Interesting. Yeah, I think there was somebody today was actually comparing, Bitcoin's chart as well, and they were very similar today. Well, okay, the one that I love, of course, I'm all about the bonds. And so we've got the bonds down another 9/10 of a basis point in the after hours after being down 7 or 8 during the regular hours. So we're now at 4.289. We are only less than 4 basis points away from 4.25. And I think that would be another kind of one of those points at which if we can crash through that one, we might be heading for 4.0. We're now down almost 50 basis points from the recent high, and that should be starting to see mortgages going into the sixes.
I was going to ask you, that's the 10-year you're talking about, right? So yes, it
Yeah,
is
10 year.
clear.
I'm sorry. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, that would be yeah, that'd be good. I mean, I mean, I don't know if you're seeing it, but I, try to look at what the stockpile of homes are across the
Right,
country, and
right.
whether you're talking, I mean, really any market, its inventory is building up across the board.
Well, the
Uh,
buyers will be happy if that happens. So,
yeah.
because they
Well,
haven't had any inventory. They haven't had any inventory for about 10 years.
yeah. Well, we have this we have kind of like this gap that exists. You have the people who have, just call it, rates under, or home locked in rates under 4%,
Right. Yes. Yes.
and then you got people who are 6% up right now.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's like, if you could get to like 5%,
Yeah.
all of a sudden people who have anywhere from a 2 to 4%, maybe they'd be willing to sell their house to move into a bigger one.
Right.
And all of a sudden that could come on the market, and, like, the two
Or
can meet.
actually a smaller one. The problem is
Yeah.
grandma sitting in a
Downsizing.
five
Yeah.
three that doesn't want to move out because
Yeah.
they've got a
Good point.
2% loan. So
But
anyway,
yeah,
so
if rates could come down, you can find equilibrium between inventory, sellers, and buyers, right? We can actually create a market. We don't have a market right now.
we haven't had,
We've
yes.
got a market at the top, and we got nothing at the bottom.
Yes, and oil finally, because you were going to be on today. That's why it dropped below 70 after I've been predicting it for a
Oh, did
week.
it?
Yeah, 69.11. So this is good news. It's up a little, 18 cents in the pre-market. Uh, uh, Brent also 73.02. So looking good there. Natural gas up a little in the pre-market, but sitting just over $4. So all three of those, and that's what people were asking the new press secretary, Catalina.
Korean,
You too, huh? Catalina.
Korean.
Anyway, they were asking the new.
It's been like 20 days.
They
We
were
got
asking
four
her again
years.
today, when's inflation gonna stop? When are we gonna? I'm like 20, yeah, like you said, 35 days. But obviously oil and natural gas and interest rates, if those go down, that is gonna help so much.
I, I, I,
Yeah,
I sorry, just real quick.
yeah, yeah.
Again, I don't think we're gonna have a recession. I really don't. But I think you're gonna see big layoffs, jumping unemployment. I think you're gonna see housing prices come down. There's gonna be a lot of inventory. There's already a lot of inventory, and all that's gonna lead the Fed to cutting rates. That's gonna lead to gas prices going down. When homes come down, when gas prices go down, that means inflation comes down. When you have inflation coming down plus unemployment going up, that means Fed cuts rates, and all of this will feed into itself, which will keep us out of a recession, in my opinion.
All right. So therefore, you and I are actually not that far apart because what you're basically saying is you don't think we're going to be having a GDP going up at 2.5 because we're going to have some layoffs and stuff. So the GDP might fall to 1 or it might fall to a half, but it won't actually go negative. and that it'll recover in time, that all of these forces will create a stimulus to business, a stimulus to home buying, a stimulus to home
Yeah.
redecoration. So things will pick up before it actually goes in the toilet.
I think everything will essentially, I think it'll be volatile, but it'll essentially be a wash. And all the things that are bad that are happening
Right,
will lead to the good things being able to trigger, right? Because
right,
like we can't, until we see inflation come down and unemployment go up, the Fed's not going to cut rates.
right.
Until the Fed cuts rates, the buyers don't step in, and the new homes are going to sell. And so it's like
We
it's a
really
chicken
need
or
the
egg thing.
treasuries more than the Fed. We need those treasuries to come down, and
Well,
they're not paying attention to the Fed. But the things we just talked about will bring the bonds down.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
All right. So we got a little bit of good news in the equities. It looks like we're heading in the right direction tomorrow. The Dow is currently up 80 or 0.18. S&P is up 1575 or 0.26%, and the Nasdaq is up 80 or 0.38%. So if this holds overnight, oh, by the way, Tesla's also up. Yeah, I was just there a
Three
minute.
dollars and 21 cents.
How much?
$3.21.
$3.21. Yeah, so about 1% in the after hours. All right, so that's not a horrible end of the day. So we can say this is good news Tuesday because the trends are in the right direction for tomorrow. And besides, oil's down, natural gas is down, and 10 years are down. So that's enough good news for one day, I suppose.
Tomorrow is going to be
NVIDIA day.
NVIDIA day. Tomorrow is going to be everyone's all going to be on edge for NVIDIA.
Okay.
So I'm telling you, that's the market right there, right now.
Okay. All right.
And
Okay. I believe you. I think you're probably 100%.
there's no probably on this one. This is take this one to the bank. NVIDIA will dictate what happens next.
All right. Well, Nicholas, you get better. We don't
Thank
want to
you.
see you under the weather next Tuesday, so you get a week to recover. So we'll see what happens next week. Thanks, as
Appreciate it.
always, for coming on and helping us out, figuring out what in the heck happened today anyway. And to all of you, it's been great talking to you.
Cheers.